Hi, my name is Lainie. I'm a patient of Dr. Spiro's, and I'm also a breast cancer survivor. I met Dr. Spiro in 2016. I went to him to have a consult for a breast reduction surgery. And I found him because I was having lunch with a friend, and she mentioned to me that a couple of years before she'd had breast cancer and she'd had reconstruction. And I'd always been interested in researching surgeons because I knew at some point I was going to have a reduction surgery. And I asked her who she went to, and she said, oh, his name is Scott Spiro. So I went home and I looked him up and I found his website. And I looked primarily at his reconstruction photos. I was just drawn to them, I think, because I was so blown away at how beautiful they were. And I thought, he's rebuilding these women's breasts from nothing, and you can't even tell that they've had surgery. And I think that's what did it for me. I thought, if he can make a woman who'd had to have her breasts removed look so beautiful, he'll do wonders for me with just a reduction. So I made an appointment, I went to see him. And when I walked into the office, there was all this beautiful artwork hanging. And I looked a little closer and I saw his name signed to everything. I had no idea that he was an artist at the time. And I thought, okay, now it makes sense. Here we have a gifted surgeon who operates, he sees the architecture of a body from the surgical perspective, right? And then he has this artistic side, and he sees it from that perspective. And then you put that together and it's just a winning combination. So then it made complete sense to me why his work was so beautiful. So I booked my procedure with him and I was thrilled. I looked amazing. I went to see him shortly after my procedure for follow-up, and he said, your tissues came back from pathology and you have something we call atypia. And it basically puts you at a higher risk for breast cancer. Being at risk for breast cancer wasn't a huge surprise for me because my mom's had breast cancer twice. I've always had look backs on mammograms and stuff, never had an issue, but always knew that it was a possibility. He said, I'd like to send you to my surgical oncologist and have her take a look, and let's see what we should do. So I did. I wasn't panicking or anything, but I went to see Dr. Blackwood, and she said, yeah, this is definitely going to put you at a little bit more risk. So let's hit it head on and let's put you on some preventative medication to try to push this away. About a year later, I went for my routine mammogram and I came up with bilateral breast cancer. I had a tumor in each breast, which was very interesting because 10 months prior, I had an MRI, which was completely clean. So this really came quickly and unexpectedly. And I think what really hit me the most with this was that had he not found that atypia in my surgery, I don't know where I would have been when we found my cancer. So it is without question for me that Dr. Spiro saved my life with that early diagnosis. So I always say it was the best money I ever spent on that on that reduction surgery. So now I was back as his patient again, but now I was back as a mastectomy reconstruction patient. And one of the things I was really worried about going back is I wasn't sure how do you react? How do you act with him now that I'm back in his office and now we've got to cut off the beautiful work that he did? I thought he was going to come in the office and say, oh, Lainie, I'm so sorry. This is so awful. And it was not that at all. He walked in the office like it was our normal consult, and he's, Lainie, nice to see you. Okay, let's talk about what we want to do here, and we're going to go through all the procedures, and we're going to pick what's best for you, that's going to give you the best feeling, the best aesthetic look, and that set the stage for me, for my journey with him from then on, because I knew he didn't pity me. He didn't feel bad for me. I was a patient and he was going to do his best to make me look and feel as beautiful and sexy as possible. And that's where it all began for me. One of the things that helped me through this, I think, with Dr. Spiro is that he was always very positive, always very looking forward to the next step. Here's what's coming next. He answered my questions at every visit before I even had a chance to ask them, because he always knew, I think, what was coming. The other thing that he does is he connects his patients with patients who've had the same procedure that you've had prior. So I had what's called latissimus flap reconstruction, which basically means they take skin, muscle, and tissue from your back, from your latissimus muscle, and they flip it around into the front, which gives a very nice, soft feel. Aesthetically, they look very real, and I have a lot of my own tissue and muscle in there. I was very hesitant about that procedure, so we had a lot of discussions about that, and he connected me with a woman who'd had the same procedure before. So I had a chance to talk to somebody who'd actually have it done, who'd been living with it for some time now. I was then connected with someone who was coming in for their procedure, and we built a wonderful friendship. And that connection, that he does that, and helped us to create this very deep bond that we'll have for the rest of our lives, is very, very meaningful. I really remember that every time I went, because we had several consultations before my first surgery, and there are several surgeries with these procedures, was that it was always very upbeat. It was always, you're going to look beautiful. This is what's going to be next. This is what we can do. This is what we're going to do, and so forth and so forth. So that was very helpful for me getting through this, because this was some tough stuff. People are always curious, they want to see. And I have no qualms about opening my shirt and showing my breasts, because I'm so proud of the work that he did and how I look, that it's also educational for people to know that you can go through something like this and come out looking this wonderful. And people ask me if I would go back to him for cosmetic elective procedures, and I think, what are you talking about? I don't need any elective procedures. But of course I would. He's the only surgeon for me. He saved my life, and he helped me get to a point where I feel sexy again, and beautiful and proud of who I am and what I've been through. And that's not an easy place to get to. And so, yeah, I would see Dr. Spiro again, and I would recommend him, and I do recommend him, and I've had friends already go and have worked with him, because he's amazing at what he does. And I'm a loyal follower now.